Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Petey Performance Podcast, and a very special episode today. Today's episode of the podcast is a conversation with a good friend of mine in Siobhan McGrath. Siobhan is a multiple-time All-Ireland winner with Dublin. She is a multiple-time All-Star and was voted TG Ceathair Player of the Year back in 2019 when the Dubs won the All-Ireland title. Siobhan also plays and is a very prominent member of Thomas Davis GAA club, so I've coached her over the last couple of years, so I know her pretty well. This was a fantastic conversation with a fantastic person who I am proud to say, proud to call a teammate probably before I would call her a player that I've coached. But we talked a lot about the club. We talked about our experiences over the last couple of years together. We talked about her experiences over her years in the GAA. Like, she made her debut for Dublin back in 2004, and we talk a little bit about her decision to retire from senior club football this year as well. So fantastic conversation for you guys, a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed it. It was a fantastic way to end my time with Thomas Davis, I guess, in reflecting on what we learned over the last couple of years with a good friend, a good athlete, and a great player. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and if you do enjoy it, please remember to like it, share it, and send it. Siobhan McGrath.
Hi.
Welcome to the Petey Performance Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's very weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because obviously most people that I have on the podcast, I semi-know or I do know, but like I was thinking
insider information.
Yeah, but like I was thinking over the weekend, I'd say cumulatively I've spent probably more than 100 hours with you in the last 2 years. Probably way more than that, actually.
Oh,
You're the one lingering around in the gym.
Last to leave.
Yeah, what are we going to do? How are we going to solve this? And then we have our good chats, myself, yourself, and Nora afterwards about how to solve any issues. But I thought it appropriate to get Mrs. Thomas Davis, even though you're not going to take that title, onto the podcast. And you had to do this because I played in the Sevens tournament the weekend.
Yeah, it was 1 for 1.
So let's start off by asking, what do you think I'm going to ask you about, actually?
Well, it's about Thomas Davis and it's about my career, I assume. That's kind of the gist of it, really, I think, is it? Yeah.
Hopefully. We'll go into a little bit more detail about mindset and whatnot, but I think the best way for it to flow is as if it's a conversation that we would have generally, where we're not tearing the heads off each other, which doesn't happen too often anyway, just on occasion. But having gone through the season now, obviously, and we've got a chance to sit on it and think about it for the last couple of weeks, do you have any reflections on the club season? Because obviously it was disappointing for both the group and for you personally.
Yeah, like I found this year, and I know a lot of girls did, particularly tough, mentally draining a little bit, and I'm trying to think what was it or why, and I don't think this was consciously. I think maybe individually people put that extra bit of pressure on themselves or on us as a group because we did unexpectedly well. Now, to the outside, we did unexpectedly well. Like, we had very much belief in ourselves, what we could do as a footballing team. But yeah, maybe just the fact that there was no expectations on us last year. We just got to go out and play football and do what we wanted to do, play the game we wanted to play. And maybe this year we came back in with a bit of that kind of like, we got to go one step further this year, or prove that we are a good team, or we are what we believe we are to be. Now, like I said, I don't think that's consciously, and that's not conversations I'm having with people. It's my perception on a bit. And maybe personally as well, I knew it was going to be my last year. It might have been one or two, a few others that did, and maybe there was a bit of now or never type thing for like us as individuals with the club. So that's my own kind of thing that I'm trying to think about and stuff like that. But I think all in all, then I know it was bad kind of ending for me personally, but what I got out of it in that semi-final was, you know, like I suppose maybe my thing that I bring to the team's communication and stuff like that, but that they don't necessarily need me. Do you know what I mean? They're fine. They're good. Like, so it nearly wasn't a bad thing for me to be on the sideline to go, you know, like this, we've got so much potential here for this club, this team, etc. So maybe it was a positive for me in that sense that like I know what's there, and it's not, you know, that they're going to progress and they're going to keep going, and, you know, without me, but, you know.
I'm sure you'll still be involved in some capacity. Someone to talk to, at least, with all the experience that you have, like. But I think you bring a lot more to the group, obviously, than communication. Obviously, that is a strength of yours. But I definitely felt that at the start of the year from a lot of girls, that there was a pressure, an unnecessary pressure, because we did so well last year, and there's a kick of the ball in the senior final last year. In hindsight, did we talk too much about going and winning it, do you think? And as a result of that, we were always fixated on the outcome of the year as opposed to each game as it came? Because that's something we did very well the year before, was we just said, okay, who are we playing this week? Okay, let's play that match and not worry about what happens at the end.
Yeah, like, but at the same time, like, I don't think we were consciously in training and, you know, management saying this is the end goal is win. I think when we set out our goals, that was, you know, our end goal. But like, if that's not your end goal, what's the point? Like, not what's the point. Obviously, there's massive points to playing football. But when you're competing at this level and everyone wants to win and everyone wants to get there, if that's not your end goal, what's going to be your end goal? Now, I know it's all about like get the performance, and I think that's where we started off with that, and then we tried to pull back with that and, you know, go a bit more, get our performance, because the performance wasn't coming, and then it was then just pressure because we weren't getting that. But like I said, I don't think it was like this conscious thing every time we went out. It was like we were training because we were looking till September. I just think it might have been individual groups, or, you know, me and Nora might have been having little conversations. Do you know what I mean? Like, just I think in the back of everyone's mind it was there. And then obviously we set our goals. But like I said, it's like with any team. If you're a senior team and your goal's not to win, like, where are you? Not, you know,
100%. I agree. I think you have to talk about it, and you have to speak outwardly about what your goals are and what your process is going to be to get there. But when I reflect back on it, I almost think we got so drawn into the quantitative, like, numbers and the stats, and we need to win this game and we need to be here by this and whatnot. We never actually stopped to reflect on how we were feeling as a group. Were we feeling like we had control over the fixture when we were playing in it? Were we feeling confident going into it? And I think potentially you definitely do need to talk about the process, talk about the outcomes, and talk about the stats and all that kind of stuff too. But you also need to balance that out with, like, okay, what's actually going on? How's everybody feeling going into the games? How's everybody feeling post-game? And why are we feeling that way? And how can we increase confidence and increase and facilitate enjoyment in the sessions as well? Because there was a lot of sessions where previously we were getting pissed off in the years previous about not having enough people at training to actually train. But then we almost got so serious that we at some stages throughout the year. And I know you have to be somewhat serious if you're going to achieve your goals, but we lost a little bit of the enjoyment. Whereas you can have the enjoyment and still push hard, which we saw towards the end of the year when we started just doing the games-based stuff, because that's playing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd agree, I suppose. And maybe, yeah, like maybe we didn't pull each other in and have them reflective meetings, because we did say we'd do more of them at the start of the year. Maybe it was you know, that was supposed to be our review process, and maybe we let that slip, I suppose. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe me as captain, I should have been the one to like drive that, and maybe there's a few little things there that during the year I probably let slip, or I didn't pull them in quick enough, or yeah, I don't know. There's probably a few reflections on that part of it as well. But
I am interrupting the podcast to let you guys know about my new product, my new program, the GAA Game Speed Blueprint. So, if you follow me on social media, if you followed me over the years, you will know that I have a background in speed development and in development for game scenarios and change of direction agility type work. So, I've written a 16-week program based around speed development, based around game speed development for GAA. There's also some conditioning sessions in there as well for a period of 10 weeks. But it is for the GAA player or the GAA coach that doesn't know how to build from linear speed development back to the game of Gaelic football, to the game of hurling. I'm doing a starting 15 discount, and 3 of those spots have already been snapped up. So I have 12 left at a 15% discount. You can access it over on my website, and I will put the link in the show notes as well. But for now, back to the podcast.
But one thing that you do very well is like take responsibility, and sometimes maybe too much, in that, like you're saying there, maybe as captain I should have stood up and said things when this were needed to be said. But from my perspective, I think you said pretty much everything that needed to be said. And what you're probably thinking in your head is the things that you didn't say, you ended up saying eventually. It just took to a certain time till you did say it. But potentially, if you had said it earlier, you could have lost people in that it wasn't the appropriate time to say those things.
yeah, but even though that review process, like that was probably something I should have enforced. If that made sense.
I don't know if you can enforce it though.
Well,
But you could hold people accountable.
No, but just ask. Oh, look, we asked for this, or we said we would do this at the start of the year, and we haven't really done it. Now, it's not like that the conversations weren't being had. Like I was communicating with the lads, but yeah, it was just maybe that on both sides of the coin that they seen that the communication was going from one to the other. I don't know. Maybe
I think in regards,
about it.
I think it's a useful conversation to have. But what we're talking about is having periodical reviews of how we're getting on. But I think the decision that was made was we did a couple of them, and it was just chaos. Like everybody was finding it to be so much pressure that we almost, as a management group, were thinking, are we putting this pressure on by being so professional and doing these reviews consistently?
But that's what we asked. We want. That's what we asked for. I don't think I think we can reflect on and go back and review the year. But like at the end of the day, I think we all just maybe individually put too much of that pressure on ourselves that wasn't even there. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just unnecessary, like you said, pressure we were putting on ourselves. But like I don't think like everyone did. We asked for this. Do you know? We all asked for it to be upped, and
but it's not.
I wouldn't have wanted that different.
I know.
I love that setup. I love being coming out and
you like being under pressure though, kind of to an extent.
Maybe.
Well, like if you reflect back on last year and the final, like. Well, your mum said to me, Mary was like, I've never seen her feel so under pressure as in the first half of the final.
Yeah.
And
that's because I was brutal.
No, but even beforehand, she said it. Because for once you were quiet before a game and you're usually talkative, which is normal, I think. But did that differ from what you felt going into All-Ireland finals with Dublin, or was it similar?
No, I'm actually not. I suppose maybe Mary hasn't, my mum hasn't witnessed me in like big days in dressing rooms, maybe. Like the semi-final against Nafina, there was a lot of like nobody, like there was no pressure on me, there was no expectations of me, you know, that kind of way. So that was fine. Whereas final, but no, like even with Dublin, no, like if you talk to anyone in dressing room with me, I'm very quiet. I'm a very nervous person. It's like just this energy building up in my gut. Like I want to get sick all the time. I'm just like, but just with the final though last year, I suppose there probably was a little bit more pressure. Like without being it, like when you are captain, there's a bit more on you. When you play club, there's more expected of you to, with Dublin, like you're surrounded by players who are going to do it, going to be the standout people, going to lead the charge. Whereas I suppose when you play with your club, you're expected to be that person to step up, to when things go wrong, to be the one to drive it on. So that's probably why I felt that a little bit more. And it was a big day, like big occasion.
It's massive.
Like it's a massive occasion. Like no matter what, like Dublin, they're all massive occasions, but that's still, there's nothing different between going out and playing an All-Ireland final and then going out and playing a county championship with your club. Like it's still that feeling of excitement, nerves, everything. Do you know what I mean? Imagine now walking back into Thomas Davis with a cup. Like,
Oh, I know.
face would explode.
It explodes when there's no cup. So imagine what would happen if we did actually get over the line, which will happen inevitably soon.
Yeah.
But how did you manage that then? Because I know I was there. Like I was there at halftime when the talk was given and we had the chat, and we obviously weren't performing in the first half. Like when we reflect back on that, was that because when we went out, there was absolutely no pressure on us because we were down by so much, and we were like, well, we've got to this point, we might as well give it a go. And that's exactly what we did.
I think, I think personally what I found when I went in, like, I think I went in a bit dead and buried, like breath-wise, everything. Like this was a different pace. I hadn't played for all the year, realistically. And going out and playing these where it was a different ball game. I felt like I'd been hit by about 5 buses. But like when we went into the dressing room, like mentally I was a bit dead and buried. I was like, how? But what I will say, there was girls in that dressing room. I didn't have to say Anthony. I don't know if you remember. I don't think I did say Anthony.
You did?
Well, I don't remember that. I remember other girls stepping up.
Yeah.
And I sitting there going, can I curse?
Yeah.
Thank fuck. Because I didn't have what them girls were able, like, as in, they actually, getting a bit of goosebumps here, they put something in me. So if I spoke, I don't really remember it. It's because they put that back into me because I was dead and buried, but the other girls really, really, Collie, Rachel, Kirby, like they let loose. They call it loose. Do you know what I mean? Like it was, that's what I remember. So
I
they
remember
ignited something in me.
From what you said, it wasn't much, but there was a sheer like ferocity in what you said. Like it was backs against the wall. Like we're going out and we're just going to not die. Like we're going to give it hell for leather because like we at that point we were like, we don't know if we'll ever be here again.
Yeah.
Probably as a group in this dressing room, we might not.
Yeah.
So that's what I remember. But I do remember lots of girls stepping up, and I remember seeing girls playing out of their skin then in the second half. Like
it was a performance I'll never, like, as in everyone just, there was one particular minute, and I've said this to Karina, and like it was in the second half and she'd come on and she literally just like ran by me, and come on, sorry, but she was going, nearly putting herself into midfield. And like, you know, a few of us were getting a bit tired. It was towards the end. It was when we were really going at it. And she just like runs by me. She's like, just give me the ball. Just give me the ball. I have it, McGrath. I have it in me. And she just started wandering down the pitch. And I was like, please just give her the ball. But you know what I mean? Like it was just, people were just ready to really put their body on the line.
But they're accepting personal responsibility for what was at hand. Like everybody wanted the ball, which we know is different to what happens the whole way through the year for every team. Like sometimes on a team there are people that want the ball and other people that, geez, don't give me that, this game's in the balance. But everybody wanted the ball because everybody was not willing to not give it their all because they didn't want to have any regrets about the game. And that was probably why, even though we came so close and we did inevitably lose it, there was like a bit of comfort in it because we had gone out in second half and nobody lay down. Everybody gave it their all. But then the question is posed to you. It's like, well, like if we only did that for 30 minutes, what would have happened if we did that for 60? And that's probably the question we were trying to answer this year. Yeah.
But like at the same time, yes, 100%. Like we got like a bit shell shocked probably when we went out to start. But you're playing in Crokes.
Yeah.
You're not going to get 60 minutes of...
No, exactly.
No, like if
it's impossible to play a perfect game.
Yeah, like that's you're going to have to allow for, you know, it was kind of like a game of two halves really, wasn't it, that day? So they got the better of us in the first half and we probably came out and shell-shocked them a bit in the second half.
100%.
But yeah, you're never going to get a perfect performance. But yeah, being able to get more than that 30-minute performance, I suppose, is the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. But when people hear, like, it doesn't surprise me, obviously, because I'm around you so often, as are the other coaches. But when people hear of your accolades and whatnot, they probably think that you're this really confident, like, go out and just like, oh, I'm going to play out my skin and I'm going to demand the ball and I'm going to do all this. But like, if you're on a spectrum of a worrier to a warrior, it's interesting that I know that you're further towards the warrior side of things. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I think that's what makes a good defensive player or a good back, because you're constantly thinking about, well, what if we turn over this ball? Where's the ball going to be? Whereas more of the forwards, I would say, are the ones that have to just not worry about losing the ball and just take risks to try and score. Do you think that you being more of a warrior has benefited you through the years, maybe at the expense of your mental health at times?
Yeah, probably. But like you say, it's a bit more natural. Like, I think you're in a position on the pitch for your ability, obviously, as well. But like, you know, it is kind of like, it's where you fit in, you know, it's what you're good at. Like, do I think no, like, I think you have to, it's awareness as well. Like, so there's worrying, but like, there's just awareness of, and that comes with age though as well. And that comes with playing the game a long time. Like, would you met me when I was 20, would you say the same thing about me? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was probably a bit more freer, would run up the pitch as much as I wanted to. Now I'm obviously not as fit as fast either, but like, do you know what I mean? And it's where you play, and once you move into that central role, you kind of have to make sure that everything's set up properly. You have to. And I suppose you do kind of think, no matter what happens, even if you get caught out, if you're, you know, it will play in your mind if you don't do everything to get back. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just no option for giving up, even if you have to crawl, get back there, if that makes sense. I don't know if like, yeah, it's probably more of a responsibility thing maybe than a worrier. You'll take on the responsibility if something goes wrong.
How much of that mentality do you think comes from your dad, John, and what he told you when you were younger, which was, as you said, he'd have 3 work-ons after every game almost, and
your
then
boots maybe went in the bin once or twice. My brothers went in a lot. Mine were threatened a few times.
And he said he had some other analogy. He said, work like a dog or something, was it? He said in an interview.
He always said that I'm like a dog without a bone. You know what I mean? You can keep trying to beat me, but I'll always come back. That's his thing on me. I love he said, you're just such a skillful footballer. But no.
He doesn't say that to many.
But yeah, no, Dad was very like, he was harsh on us, like, but like, I suppose I think we both, like, me and my brother, be very kind of thankful for that now. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? We were, you know, people would tell you you're younger, you were, you know, this, you were that or whatever. But like, you never thought, not that you didn't think it, but it was just that you were kept very much grounded. And knowing that, like, you know, nobody's ever going to be a perfect footballer, and you've always got stuff to work on. So if you went home, you were told 3 things to work on and improve on for the next day.
But that's probably why you hold such a growth mindset now, because you know you can get better at stuff because you've had that experience for 20 plus years in your GAA career.
But I think you always have to know, like, that there's always things to improve on. And even throughout your career, like, you're good, you might be like good at one thing and working on that, and then it flips. Do you know what I mean? Things change, and like that, like, my always thing probably when I was younger was I was fit, I was fast. That kind of thing. Whereas when you get slower, you get older, things need to change. My football got better as I got older, because, you know, obviously I'm playing, I'm training, it's going to get better. But it naturally did. I made myself work on different things, both feet, on all that stuff, you know, making sure my skill set was better. But when I was younger, you know, solo run with the ball, you know, my skill set wasn't as good, but I was a good defender, and I was fast, and I was fit, and that was my benefit. You know, that's what I brought as I got older. I had to change that. So you have to always keep having to adapt and change and improve.
But I'm unfortunate in a sense that I only know the older player.
Yeah.
Which, from even watching you when we started working together, like what I always noticed was you're never to rarely out of position, and your communication, like you're the loudest person on the field, and you see the value in talking and organizing, which maybe is a parallel in your private life as well and in your job. But like, you adapted to be that player, obviously, because you said you couldn't cover as much ground. So then you got a bit cuter and you realized, okay, if I stay here, the ball's going to come to me, or or if I just block up this channel, I'm being useful as well as communicating. And it's something you don't see from the younger players a lot, is some of them are just mute on the field. And it's such low hanging fruit in that it's really easy to achieve huge gains and improve the team's performance from just talking.
Yeah, and I think that comes with confidence and the fear of like saying the wrong thing. And obviously it's experience, like when you're playing so long, and especially if you're playing an essential channel, you see a lot more. But I suppose it's learning to be a bit more aware and scanning the pitch. But I also think the kind of problem is underage, we're just not making them. Like I'm seeing it now, have like the under 15s, and like trying to get them to just give each other a tiny bit of direction. It's so hard. And to be honest with you, I feel like going into next year, that's nearly going to be my prime focus. I'm like, I have to get you guys communicating. Can't get just adult football and you can't speak to each other on a pitch. So I think that piece needs to start. And girls are different as well. It just takes so much more out of them. But underage, at a younger age, we need focus on that a bit, make sure that we're communicating to each other, because it is massive. Like if you take one person out that doesn't communicate, it can break down. The whole thing can break down.
The hardest aspect of that as a coach or a mentor with younger teams is you want to talk and coach actively all the time because you care so much. But if you care so much about their long-term development, it's quite important that at times you're just quiet and you let them figure it out, which is nerve-wracking as a coach, isn't it?
I can't do it.
Yeah, you see, you're saying you want them to talk, but
like that's it. Like you're on the sideline and you're talking them through a game, and you're like, yeah, they have to learn to talk each other through this game. And so it is probably something that's a learning curve as a coach for me. Like, I need to step back on that and maybe try and pull back and try and get them just say nothing. But then, like, what happens if it goes in?
I know, but you have to think that if it goes in now, that's a lesson learned. But in relation to, you said that came with experience, like realizing the power and the utility of communication. Can you remember when that dropped? Like, were you like that the first time you were in with Dublin, or was it after you came back?
I was like that in the first time with Dublin, but like I started training with that team, the senior, when I was 15. So when I was 15, I was mute, obviously. It took me to probably 18, 19 before I kind of found my voice a little bit, because I was kind of starting to. And then I was amongst a group of women who were like that, extremely vocal. Like, I learned from like really, really good people, if that makes sense, and harsh people. Like, you know, they were harsh on each other. I went into a situation in a scenario where that was very much important and focused on, and being open and saying what you needed to say. So I learned it from. Did I go in like that? No, I was mute. I was a very shy person actually when I was younger. They used to tell me, just give her a bottle of Bulmers and then she might open up. But yeah, no, it took a few years. But yeah, I think once I hit about 19, 20, I started to be quite a vocal and person and trying to drive standards a bit. So,
and that came from other influences, like watching other people do it.
Yeah, and being in the environment where that was happening.
So that's your worry now, if you're not going to continue with the group, is that you need people to step up and start being more vocal, because then the younger ones aren't going to learn if there's nobody being vocal.
Yeah, and it needs to be spread around, like a lot of, but like the thing is, I think think there can be a reliance then as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, the semi-final, take me out of it. They had no problem talking to each other. Do you know what I mean? Like
That was almost a good thing.
yeah,
In that it drove them on. They're like, oh, we better talk because Siobhan's not here.
So like that, like I think they become very reliant for me to talk, but there's no issue if I'm not on the pitch. They can do it. So it's just a matter of then people just stepping up, but it just needs to be across the board and people not afraid to, like, you can make calls. If they're wrong, so what? Like,
can you see the parallels between what you're saying there and now you coaching the
I
under
know,
15s?
yeah. I know. Yeah, so we've match Saturday. I'll say no, and I'm going to be mute.
No, well, it's useful and constructive direction initially, and then maybe sitting back and letting them figure it out. And you have to as well. It's like even towards the end of the year when we were doing the games-based stuff and we were like improving as a team and in relation to the system and whatnot, the lads like sat back during the game and let you figure it out. And a lot of the time the first game was a shambles altogether. Then they came in with some direction and then they sat back, and then the second game got better again, and then the same thing again, and the third game got better again. Because as a coach sometimes it's really hard, but you have to be comfortable with silence.
Yeah.
To draw it out of people. And that's why whenever I'm asking questions and whatnot, when I'm coaching you as well, oftentimes I'd say, nothing from you, Siobhan, be quiet. I need somebody else to speak. Because you want people to be open to saying something and not be afraid to be wrong as well. Because generally they're not wrong.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, it definitely is a fair thing. But yeah.
So in terms of how you've been coached then, like from the early years up to now, because you have played inter-county, like you've so much experience. When did you make your Dublin debut? Like 2010, was it? Or earlier?
Oh no, 2000, and I went up in 2003. 4.
So you've
a
seen
league game.
You've seen like the ladies Gaelic football coaching probably change significantly over the last 20 years. What's the major change, the difference?
I think it's obviously going to be the same as anything in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like you've got, nutrition, you've got the S&C side of things. You've even got the management piece, like the player management piece has changed a lot. And don't get me wrong, I think Dublin was always like ahead of the game, no matter where they were. But it's just, it's gone upward trajectory completely. Which is great. And I think I noticed the biggest gap or change obviously is when I left to when I came back in 2018 in Nick's era. That was just phenomenal to come into, to be able to, like, even a simple thing is like to go in and get a scan really quickly done. Do you know what I mean? Like just access to the physios when you want, access to S&Cs when you want, that kind of stuff. A nutritionist, just that knowledge piece around
the resources are just there.
The nutrition now piece was really good for me, I think, just to get a proper understanding of what my body needed, not a generic that piece, and coming down, like, because that I found that really, really good, to be honest.
When you talk about player management, what are the major differences between, say, 2004 and then up to 2018? Was it very much just you were left to your own devices and coached in the old school way of told what to do back in the early days?
No, now I was young as well, so like a lot of things might have went over my head a bit. So I obviously wouldn't have been player managed because I was only a kid coming in. So like what was happening between management and more older
senior
established players,
yeah.
I don't really know. But just seeing the development over the years, like when we won in 2010, like there was good player management. We had a really, really good management team. But it's just every year it gets stepped up, like, and just say from to now, having like allocated people to different players. Does that make sense? Like that you have a complete backs coach, you have a complete forwards coach, that kind of thing. And then individual feedbacks might be, certain coach might have 5 players a day do their, stuff like that. Just having that kind of feeling that there's a dedicated person for it. Now that's obviously at the top level or whatever, but yeah, no, I found, like, I do think obviously it also is where maybe you are within a panel as to how you feel player management is. So I personally always had very good player management. I know people who haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very much your experience, your perception of where that is at the moment.
For those players that feel like they're not managed in the same way or don't get the same level of care, what has been your advice over the years to them, or what would be your advice to them now? Do they have to wait it out?
No, I don't think they should wait it out.
They should go and seek it.
I think they should go seek it, and that's maybe a little bit. There has to be a bit of ownership there as well. Like, if you don't think, because I think a lot of people might have thought as well, like, oh, you get automatic feedback, and you're like, but I don't. I actually ask it, and I'd be like, sometimes I'd say you might get more of it, and I wouldn't, because sometimes they think, oh, she doesn't need it. Where so if I wanted to get something, I'd go for it and ask the question. So I would be trying to say, you have to seek it out and take ownership yourself. But then there's some times where the people take it on and are happy with that, and then there's other times where it's just not what.
Yeah.
The relationship there is not what.
That's the analogy I always use, and it is the players like you that I'm talking about. Whenever you're looking for feedback, it's always like, what am I doing wrong? How can I improve? Whereas for some people in the younger generation that are coming through, they almost are like, well, tell me what I'm doing right first, and then we can work on what we can work on. And if I know I'm doing something right, then I'll be more inclined to continue doing it. And I know from your perspective, you're sometimes saying like, well, look, they need to adapt. They need to be able to take both forms of communication and feedback. But I think there is kind of a bit of a natural divide or difference between, say, the older generation players and the younger generation of players now. How have you found is best for coaches to manage that difference in a group with such a wide
Vast
age?
Characters.
Do they have to be different people for different people?
Yeah, I think so. I think people take back feedback to people are different personalities, women especially. Some people need a bit more nurturing. Some people need to kick up the arse. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to kick up the arse. Somebody else might need nurturing. And you have to be able to know what you're dealing with. But also, I think you need to embrace the characters, because, like, now that I'm old and at the end, that's the bit that I wish maybe when I was younger I embraced more. The different characters, embrace it. Like, some of the mad young ones we have on our team, do you know what I mean? Drive you mad. But, like, I know, but they're just deadly. Like, you have to, they're so funny, and it kind of, when you get together on a social kind of scene and it's take the football out of it, like, it's such good banter, because the slagging between different types of groups, the oldies, the young ones, and that kind of thing, it needs to be, you need to just embrace them. So it's kind of like, don't try and change, their personalities and their characters, but let's just address how we deal with them when it comes to feedback and stuff. And I do think it is. It's like a certain type of people, like a management team, look at ours, very different in personalities as well. Definitely could deal with more than the others, the kind of way.
Just very different, but needed at different times.
Yeah.
Like
that's what makes up a good management team as well.
Yeah, I suppose it does. You need that differing opinion, and that's a difficult thing about when you're in it, is it's like, oh, we're different so much in opinion, are we ever going to get this right? But that's a good thing, because it means you're challenging each other's beliefs, and no stone is being left unturned. You'll figure it out eventually. It's just going to be a stress to get there. And it's kind of like, if you're working in business or in a company or whatnot, people say you should hire somebody with a different skill set to what you have in the company now, because if you just hire people that are the exact same thought patterns or beliefs or skill set as you, then it'll just become a vacuum and you're never going to improve. Really, it's stale. Yeah. So then we've talked then about like your exploits at club and with county as well. When did you make the decision that, okay, I'm done in Dublin colours now, like I'm going to give, because I know you've said to me you wanted to give a solid couple of years to the club, like when was the realisation of that?
I think like I knew, like I had, like when I came back to Dublin, I was actually like, if I gave Dublin 2 years, I'd be happy, because like age, like obviously age. And I never wanted to leave Dublin and leave football entirely. Like I knew I wanted to be 100% club for like 2 to 3 years. So I gave like 2021, I was like, right, this is the last shot. And I was like, I think I'd get another 2 years, 3 years in club. But then like decision was already made. I knew this was my last year, and I think I'd gotten injured 2020. So like 2018, 2019 were fairly smooth sailing. In 2020, my knee started going to get scope again.
Hamstring.
That was 2021. Like, so I already knew the body was kind of saying something to me. But like,
you never listened to the body.
No, I know. That's the problem, isn't it? But yeah, so I didn't get a full championship season in 2020, and it was COVID and everything. I was like, I just want to I'll get one more full championship season, and sure, week 4, final, my hammy gone. But like, but when you're kind of like, that was it. I've never had a muscular problem in my life. It's always been joints or cartilage or something like that. And I was like, okay, my body is 100%. That's the end of that level. You can't. So, and then I knew, but like it already was decided, but I knew that. And I think again, for club season, it's the same thing. It's my body's gone,
But I'm sure you were very grateful as well. Obviously not with the ending that you had, but when you came back from Australia and back into the Dublin panel, like you probably couldn't have expected the success that you did get, or the plaudits that you did get.
No, like, talk about jammy bitch, like, like, come on, walk into a dream team, right?
But voted by your peers as the player of the year.
Yeah.
So like you did offer something. You're always playing down your abilities, but
well, no. To be fair, the setup I walked into was amazing. It was just so enjoyable. Like, it was easy. Like, not the pressure wasn't as, like, I suppose I wasn't there in 2017 where they broke the barrier, that kind of way. But like, it was very different when I left. I suppose when I left, I was like the driver. I was a bit crazy, like, realistically. Like,
really,
yeah, I'm so mellow now. So she doesn't see me back then. But like, it was so nice to come back into the setup and have no expectations on me as a player, like, because there were so many big players there driving it on, pushing Dublin to where it needed to be. So I could just kind of be in the background trying to get my spot, basically, is what I was doing. And I think that nearly just allowed me to enjoy the football. Like, I probably enjoyed playing with Dublin more in that period than I did previously. But it's not saying that the love for Dublin was different. It was very, very much there, but there was just more pressure. That makes sense. Previously.
Whereas you'd made the breakthrough.
Yeah, like, so we'd won in 2010, but like, we'd hard years before that. Like, they got to 2003, 2004 All-Ireland finals. Like, I was a kid realistically then. Kind of a dip again, back up, won 2010, back down, dip. So I just felt a lot of pressure throughout that period. Whereas, this time it was just go back. I had no expectations, if that makes sense. It was like, I'd just go back in and see how this goes. And then it went pretty well.
Yeah, went pretty well as it could go, I suppose. What do you think now when you go watch the girls now? Because some that are playing, like you played with as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, some people go, I know people when they retire, they nearly find it hard to go and not support, but go watch them, and because it probably brings up and they kind of wish they were out there and all that jazz. I'll be honest with you, I didn't feel that once. because I was like, you knew you were ready to go, you were happy to leave. So going out watching them now is actually really enjoyable. Like this year now in particular, because I don't think they, the expectation on them was really low. Didn't expect to do what they did this year, and then to see, I was so impressed with them. Like in that semi-final and final, like I was actually in awe of them. But like and just seeing how fit they got to, and knowing like that's the fittest that them girls have ever been. That some of them said, it's kind of like you're like wow. But yeah, it's really nice to go and enjoy watching them play now.
Do you think you feel the same things when you do step away from the club's senior?
I'll just be I'll be there just wanting to play every inch with them, and I know because like.
Have you made a decision?
Yeah.
For sure now this time.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. Like my body's not able for this level anymore. But yeah, no, it might be a little. Is it not the fact that I want them to succeed? I really, really, and that's more the kind of like. I'll be just so. Yeah, just watching them might be a little harder because I'm a little bit more connected to them, I think, still, and I'm still wanting them to get somewhere. I want to push them on, but it's not my place to push them on. Do you know that kind of way? So, I'll still be at everything, every game. I'll be, but you know what I mean. It might be a little bit more close to home than going watching the Dubs. If that makes sense.
But obviously, from what you've spoken about before, you had real aspirations of winning a senior title playing with Thomas Davis. So how difficult was that decision to make, to decide like you're done?
It's another case of with Dublin. I knew this would be it. I knew this was my last year. From the start of this year, I knew this was it. Like, do you know that kind of way? So, you kind of just have to accept life for what it is. Like in my eyes, I'm like, I could go home, go back, rehab, think my body be all right. I'll go back next year, I'll just get injured again. And that's just the way it is. Like, as in, do I think fitness wise I could get there? Yeah, I think I could. But it's the body. Like, you kind of have to know when I feel like I'm good at knowing when my body's in, and that's the.
I think the difficulty is you can get there fitness wise, but it's staying there for the duration is the hard thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so long the season.
Yeah.
And realistically, if you were to do it, would you be able to play a league, cup and a championship campaign?
God, no.
At 100%? Like,
No.
probably not. And then you've probably made the decision, you're like, well, if I'm not all in, then.
That's the hard part. You have to be either all in or not. Like, and yeah, that's the way it is.
But if you do reflect on your club career, like, you've achieved so much as well. Like, that's just it. That's the only thing that's eluded you, I suppose. And you've been there the whole way from junior up to competing for these inter-county titles. And we see how well Crokes do when they go into the provincials and the All-Ireland. So that's the difficult thing, is like, we know we're so close and we're able to compete at a country level.
Yeah, 100%. So we just need to keep driving it on and making sure our underage is good and that we're coaching well and that we're getting. It's really hard. I think, like, obviously players, we really, really need players to get involved with our underage, but it's just so hard when you're playing yourself. It really does need to be past players, but then when past players retire, they go into family life, they do different things. So that's the kind of part I feel like we really need to go after is really, really trying to get like players involved with our underage. For that coaching piece, to just kind of that stuff that we see, that we are realising that people getting from underage level up to adult level, what needs to happen to make sure that we're transitioning into adult level at a high standard.
I think the club does that fairly well, though, in comparison to other clubs. Like, there are a number of senior players that are involved with multiple teams at different levels. But as you said, it comes down to a time standpoint. And it's, if you're here all the time, which some people in the club are, other aspects of your life suffer as a result from time to time. That's on the extreme cases, if you're here 6-7 nights a week and maybe you've other aspects of your life that aren't at the club, but some people immerse themselves so much in the club that this is where every aspect of their life occurs. And that's why defeat sometimes is so difficult for them, because it's like, I give everything to the club. So do you think that going forward, that's potentially what Thomas Davis need to do to crack through and break through to the next level of winning these tournaments that we're so close to winning?
Like getting like the players involved in.
Like youth development.
Yeah, I think youth development is a big one. I think like having, you know, like a set kind of outlay of what at each level we should see our players be able to do, achieve, bringing a little bit of the S&C side in, and that's just more mechanics. Like I'd find that sometimes the running mechanics aren't where they should be. Well, I have no, qualification saying that, but it's just, sometimes I'm kind of like going, but I don't know how to do it.
But I know, but that's only normal because nowadays kids just play the sport that they're playing. So like if those same kids were doing athletics as well and playing football or playing hurling, sure, their skill level at Gaelic games may not be at the exact same standard as that, but they'd be more of an overall well-rounded athlete going into adulthood, and then they can develop the skills after that. But I think that that's something I see in the GAA that potentially needs to change a little bit, is like we kind of constantly say that we're competing with other sports, whereas we probably shouldn't use that frame of mind. We should probably cooperate more with other sports and allow them to play them, because I see it myself with young lads. If they're coming up to GAA training and they're getting given out to for playing other sports and they're just being ran around the pitch and it's no crack, they're inclined to say, well, F you, I'm just going to play whatever the other sport is.
Yeah, we need to make it enjoyable for them as well when they come up. But yeah, I'd probably would agree with you on that point.
But then when other people look in at Thomas Davis from around the country, like multiple people say it to me, they're amazed like a lot of the time. And I've spoken to managers and coaches quite high up who have great admiration for the club. So what do you think the club has that other clubs don't have that potentially you can't buy?
So it's really weird. So like obviously we're in a massive area, okay, but realistically we don't actually have a massive catchment area because like there's a lot of surrounding clubs around us. So I think, and our club is very much, it's homegrown in a way, but if any people do come in, it's like they get so embedded into our club but I think it's all down to like, I feel like we have this community spirit that's like a country parish.
Yeah.
Like it's just, everyone just gets behind each other, and like if you're part of this club, like you're backed all the way, if that makes sense. Like even playing a lady sport, like I've always found when I've talked to people like outside of our clubs or our promoter clubs, like, and not the disrespect, but they don't get the same level of respect as their male counterparts. Whereas I've never felt like that being part of this club. I've always felt very much respected. That our ladies section has been very much respected. And obviously I'm not in the nitty gritty either, so that's just my perception of it. But yeah, like just they get behind everything. Like and everyone just say that 2-year period where we won the All Ireland 2012, then went into the intermediate series in 2013 and got to the final. Like that was a club road trip. That was one of the best times of my life. Like it was gas crack. Like you'd be going down the country, especially when we were getting into Leinster and All Ireland series, and like it was like bandwagon. Like literally everyone was there. You'd come back up to the club, the parties, the crack we had, just like things like that. You know, everyone gets involved in what, like if one team is doing well, we'll get behind it. Like and then there's also like the personal side of it. If something happens, like I've had a few, you know, like even last year or shit happened before football. Like, this has always been the one place I felt safe. Do you know, around like, come back to this place, they'll look after you. Do you know, that kind of way is in, you've never known how much, you know, people care about you until like something, and like I've had the experience of what the people in this club can do and care how much they care about you. So I don't know, it must be evident to people outside, 'cause I get told all the time as well, like, your club yous are so close, like we kill each other without a shadow of a doubt. Absolutely kill each other. But when it boils down to it, like,
You do anything.
Yeah.
That's what I said as well to you guys, even before games. I know that you would. And I see that you do. Do you think that's the benefit of the club being a little bit smaller than who we're competing against? Like, and then do you think the drawback is that unfortunately we have limited resources in terms of participation and players like to pull from?
yeah, like
But would you lose that?
And this is the thing, like, I don't want to lose that, but like at the same time, it does get frustrating when other teams can pull in. Then it becomes a case of how do you compete against these teams then, which is, you know, and there's your how do you manage that? Like, how we want to get to success, we want to get there, you know, play at the best level, but we need to be in an environment where we can actually compete there as well. So I'd love, you know, you'd love to keep what we have, but is it sustainable as well?
But I think things like the Sevens tournament a couple of weeks ago are imperative to retaining that, even if the club does, and should the club,
Yeah.
going by what the plan is, continue to grow, because like everyone was there and everybody knew each other. But I was even looking at it and I was thinking, like, I can name a handful of people that aren't here, but I know everybody that's here, and like that's me being here for 3 years. So that just shows how few members there are. Whereas I would say if a bigger club did something like that, there would be bags of people that nobody had, people hadn't seen in their whole lives. Like,
Yeah. And like that again, like how easy, like I tried, you know, sorted that out, you know, set that up 2 weeks before it, like, and the amount of people that just bought in and did it for the crack, and like, and even people helping me organise it, like, just people are just so good, like, because I'm clueless and crap at that stuff, like, so, you know, to be able to just go, here, help me with this or that, but then even that, like, everyone was there going, can we do this annually? And I was like, yeah, the club can.
yeah,
I'm playing next time, but yeah, like, it's good.
I don't know. I was put on my front, actually, my iron shortened after 30 seconds. So I don't know if playing is the best idea either. But we'll move on to quickfire questions to finish. The first one is proudest achievement to date.
So, like, this is hard because there's a few. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I can pick one over the other. Like, so obviously winning a Club All-Ireland is very, very, very special. Obviously being part of the ever first Dublin team to win All-Ireland is very, very special. But then when we bet Cork in 2018, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Between the three of them, like, you know, I've everything, all the All-Irelands we've won, it was the beating. I can't pick between the three of them.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to you as a person that all of those achievements were all achieved as part of a team. They weren't individual honours.
Oh, no, yeah. But like, individual honours are just, they're nice to have, do you know, that kind of way. But like, when you play football and when you take away, and maybe it's me being all, you know, sentimental now because I'm pulling back, but like, you know, my biggest thing about not playing maybe club football is I'm obviously massively going to miss the football. I will miss the football. But it's like, oh no, like, am I going to move away? Like, will I break away from the girls? Like, I won't see them as often. And actually, that's going to be the really hard part, I think. But like, so that just shows you, like, you play sport for that camaraderie, that kind of friendship.
Yeah. And that's more powerful than anything, even the achievements and the accolades. Like, it's the relationships Favorite athlete of all time?
Okay, so 2. One is, it's not like because of it's just what she stood for. So Sonia O'Sullivan, as a girl of that age, she was the very first woman sports person for me to, witness and watch and see, things can be achieved. But like, as my favorite player, and I don't even know who this is. I'm sure my favorite player growing up is Colin Lynch from Clare. Do you ever hear him?
Like 90s hurling.
So yeah, I
Thought you were going to say Shane McGrath.
I
know
He'd
who
only
he
love
is.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I'm growing, so I obviously I was football all my life, but I was actually, when I was growing up, I was much more into her. I playing camogie, etc. That was actually my number one. So we went around, obviously, and Claire were pretty good at that stage of the decade. So I went around. We were always following Claire, and Colin Lynch was midfield for Claire, and I played midfield for camogie, and I absolutely adored him. And he was just hardy, just got stuck in, was always there in the right spot. Like, he wasn't a skillful person or whatever. He just was that player on the pitch that you wanted there. And I don't know why I took such a shine to him, but he was my favourite.
He was the number one.
Yeah.
What's the biggest thing you've learned in the last 12 months? Huge 12 months.
Last 12 months. You'll be happy to hear this, that I think I've learned to slow down in life a little bit. Try and pull back a little bit from work. Enjoy the people around me a bit more. And not take everything so seriously. Even like with football, like, should have been tried to enjoy it a little bit more and stuff like that. So I think if the last 12 months have taught me anything, it's just to try and enjoy things for what they are and not overthink absolutely everything.
What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Literally that. So, like I said, that girl back then was way more psycho than what you've ever seen. And, coming back into Dublin, I wouldn't say don't change your work ethic or your hard work or being able to critique yourself. I think that's very important in any aspect of life, and be able to take feedback and work on things, no matter where you are, whether it's sport, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, whether it's anything, to not always think you're right. But to enjoy it, when I found when I came back into that Dublin fold, that it wasn't that I didn't care, it was just that expectation, just enjoy things, don't take things so seriously, that enjoy the people around you, the characters you have around you, and not always have to be 100 miles an hour. That's what I probably, because I was very anal back then.
So you're telling me when I come back from Australia, I'll be just pure zen and relaxed and won't be sweating out.
You're just going to be chill out, mate.
Thanks a million, Siobhan. That was great.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed that.